This is Jeremy with Oh So Simple Life. Thank you for being here, and please feel free to subscribe.
What is up? Hello. Happy Friday. Tuning in here from Southern California. Facebook Live, getting used to this, getting more and more consistent with these videos because it's fun, It's fun to share my insight, share my story, and interact with you guys. So I'm just gonna wait a few seconds here for more of you guys to tune in. If you're here, what's up? Johnny boy, what is going on? All right, guys, so I want to talk about a little experience that I had last night that has to do with religion, and I am far from a religious person. And I want to expand on that experience and share my insight that I was sharing last night with the people there, and see if we could, have a good conversation here about what we feel God is and what we feel the purpose of life is, and how it relates to, the power of love and the power of, being a human being in this wicked world that we live in, that has caused us to kind of have some confusion about what this is all about. So anyway, thanks for tuning in, guys. If you're watching the replay, you're great, and please feel free to comment. I will try my best to interact with you guys and answer any questions. If you want to stimulate the conversation, take the discussion in whatever direction that's relevant, then please feel free to do so. All right, so yesterday I was asked, or last week I was asked by my friend to come to this thing called Alpha, and it's at a Christian church. It's called Friends Christian Church here locally in Yorba Linda, and I guess Alpha is like this thing that started in the UK. It's different than going to church on a Sunday. It's different than going to a sermon and just listening to a pastor and singing and reading the Bible and whatever, so on and so forth. I guess this is more for a discussion. It's group discussions where any belief is welcome, any background is welcome, no matter if you're Christian or not, no matter if you believe in that sense of God or in Jesus or whatever. So I was open. I'm not a religious person. I was never raised with any religion. I have come to realize my own truth and to embody my own truth over the years through the experience of being alive, through my struggles, through my inner self-reflections, through a lot of research, through a lot of reading, and I have a good sense of what God means to me, and that's why I was interested in going to this meeting yesterday, this group thing that's going to be going on once a week for the next few weeks or a couple months, and it's just an open place to discuss the meaning of life, to question what the purpose of life is, and to kind of feed off of each other through respectively through a Christian lens, through a Christian perspective, but any view and any background is welcome. So that's what appealed to me. I wanted to connect with people. I wanted to see what other people's views are and get a little feel of what people my age, most people there that were my age, millennials, what they are sensing and what they are feeling and what they are going through as a Christian and as someone that follows a certain path, a certain teaching, for example, Jesus Christ. So it was really appealing to me to go over there, and so that's what I want to talk about today. I want to talk about kind of what I observed yesterday, and then my own take on it. What my insight is. Yesterday they were asking a lot of ice-breaking questions within a group, and they were asking each other different things like if you could. First, they were asking, what is your view of God, and what is your take on Jesus Christ? What do you know about Jesus Christ? And if there's a question that you could ask God, what would you ask? What is the purpose of this life? All these different things that were stimulating conversation yesterday. And the common theme that I found is that people are just kind of in the dark still. Even though they're so sure about Christianity and about the Bible and whatever it says in the Bible, even though they're so sure about it and they have faith, blind faith, some of them even openly admitted that I have blind faith, but that's my truth, and that's how it's always been all my life, and that's what I cherish. And to me, I was also observing that a lot of people they're asking all these questions. They're asking, why do we suffer? Why are we broken? Why are we put on this earth if we're just going to deal with chaos and deal with all of these negative things that we're dealing with in the world? And so all these questions are being asked. And to me, every single time we were opening up a discussion about it, to me, it all led back to the same thing. It's like, no matter what question you're asking, the answer ultimately is always love. And love can mean a lot of things to different people. But when I mean love, I think it's a state of being. Love, not as in the romanticized version of love, not the emotion that people think it is. People think it's an emotion. People think that, you give and you take love from each other, and if you take it away, then your heart's broken, and and it's just this battle between good and evil, and people think that this thing that love is, when it's not really a thing. It's just it's an action. It's a way of being. It's a state of consciousness. It's a vibrational frequency that we tune in inwardly. And so yesterday, when it came around every time to me to discuss things, I was making it clear to them that, look, I don't believe that any one truth is the only truth. There are only a certain amount of people that are Christian in the world, and what about the rest of the people? What about the people that are Buddhists? What about the people that are Muslim? What about other religions, Hindus? And what about people that are just, not religious and just spiritual beings, but not religious, and they don't follow a certain path? So I fall into that category. I fall into the category of, I understand that there is something greater than ourselves. I understand that there is a higher power, you could call it, because I experience it every single day. And so when I was stimulating conversation with these people, I was trying to convey that, look, this whole religion thing is it's an externalizing belief. It's something that we believe in. It's a shot in the dark. It's like, okay, this is what it says in the Bible, so we have to believe it. These are the rules that the Bible says, so we have to follow them. God is this person, it's a he, and so I have to be, a certain way so that he accepts me, so that I could get into heaven and all these things. And I'm like, these are just figments of our imagination. These are just stories that have been repeated and repeated and repeated and distorted and distorted and distorted in order to achieve a certain thing, which I'm not going to get into that right now because that's a whole different topic as far as control and fear-based beliefs and just using religion as a means of separation and division. But I want to just talk about love and what it means to be, spiritual, and what it means to kind of just embody a state that is similar to what Jesus embodied, that Muhammad and the Buddha, they all taught amazing lessons that we have lost in translation. We have pimped out their message and created this religion. Maybe not us direct, not the people, but the people in charge and in power have created these religions. But anyway, I digress. So for me, I kept telling them, like, hey, if you don't know, if you're asking God what the purpose of life is, and you're not getting the answer, you're just always in a vicious cycle. You're suffering, you're stressed out, you don't know what your purpose is, you don't know what to do with your life because you're just confused. Then I challenge them to look the other way, reverse that, look inside of you. If you're not finding the answers outside of you, you're not finding answers in this book, you're not finding answers in following, this or that method, why don't you realize that the purpose of life might be for you to actually create your own purpose? And that's what I was saying yesterday, is that our purpose in life may not be, what someone else has laid out for us. It's something that's up to us. It's a creative experience that we ourselves are in charge of. We give the purpose to life ourselves. And something else that was mentioned yesterday is why would God love such a broken? Why are we such a broken creation? And that's another thing. A lot of people that follow religion, they also experience suffering, and they experience, negative things. And so we only perceive ourselves as broken if we actually are broken. Not everyone is broken. We are actually born into this world complete. We are born into this world worthy of happiness. We are born into this world full of bliss and joy. I mean, most of us, I would say. And that's just our natural state of being. Being full of joy, being full of bliss, being compassionate, being selfless. I think these are the things that automatically have always been there. It's just that it's been beaten out of us through our culture, through religious programming, through different institutions. It's a disconnection that we have from ourselves ultimately. And so I really, me as in my lifestyle, I'm like a sponge. I've read a lot about Buddhism, about Hinduism. I've read about Christianity. I've read about Gnosticism. And I kind of take a little bit of everything and apply it to my life. Whatever feels that resonates, whatever I could apply into my life that feels good, that's my truth. And I think we have to understand that we all have different experiences of life. We all have different perspectives on life. We're all experiencing life at different levels of awareness. But at the end of the day, there's only one truth. There could be many ways to get to that truth, whether you follow this path or that path. It doesn't matter. At the end of the day, it's still the same thing. And that's love. And that's the ability to embody, what those great teachers once taught back then. And so I have a quote right here that I want to read to you. It states, and it doesn't have the author. I don't even know who the author is. It states here, so many people are only willing to touch the surface levels of life. They are afraid to be awakened to the truth, staying limited to only what they know rather than what they are capable of. And they become trapped in a state of fear and ego, ignoring their intuitive compass. A spiritual breakthrough is the only way to connect to your higher self and experience a truly authentic life. And so this concept of your higher self, the higher self is the missing piece. We are so stuck in ego, in I'm me and you're you, and he is he and she is she, and he's Spanish and he's Vietnamese and she's black and she's white. Doesn't matter, These are all figments of our imagination. These are all labels and terms that we've created out of our ego, out of our sense of separateness, out of our sense of division. And that's what's creating the suffering, is the fact that we think we are separate from each other, the fact that we think we are divided, the fact that we think that we're not actually connected. And so we have Muslims, we have Christians, we have Buddhists, we have Hindus, all of these different perspectives. And yet at the end of the day, it's still the same thing that unites us all. The same thing that unites us all is the energy of love and the energy of being alive. Let's think about it this way. If you have no idea what God is, if you're just searching and searching for the truth and you just don't know, then why don't you think about nature? What is the force? What is the unifying force that allows a seed to grow and to sprout and to bloom into a flower, into a plant, into a tree? What is that force? What is the force that allowed the tiny little sperm to travel and make its way to fertilize the egg and then eventually, become an embryo and eventually go through different stages? We go through a bird stage, we go through a reptilian stage and then a mammalian stage, and then we become human babies. What is that force that drives all of that? We're so worried about what's out there, God is he, and he is always looking upon us, and he is always, aware of our sins and all these things. Like, these are just concepts that we've created within our minds. This is the ego trip. This is the imagination taking its course, and the imagination is powerful, but we have to keep it in check. And so I ask people, when we're born, nobody taught us how to be. Nobody taught us how to pump our blood, in our bodies. Nobody taught us how to beat our heart. Nobody taught us how to breathe. Nobody taught us how to use our muscles. We just know how to do it. Our mind commands it. If you want to flex, then you flex. What is this force that creates all this? And I think that's the key thing here, is that God is just an action. God is the source of everything. It's the underlying pervasive force that dictates and governs all of us. And so how we perceive that force and how we perceive that energy, it's up to you. It's up to you what you give meaning to. But at the end of the day, that doesn't mean that we're all different. It doesn't mean that, religion has to separate us. No, it's just our perspective. Our perspective creates our reality, but at the end of the day, the objective truth is still there. And so whenever we hear or read something of a spiritual nature, something that's of a spiritual nature, it feels like it moves us and it touches our soul. And we feel like we're learning something new, but in reality, I don't think we're learning anything new. We're actually remembering. We're remembering what we've always had known, except it's been beaten out of us. It's been programmed out of us with all these false teachings and all these false ways of being human by going on this ego trip. And so whenever someone reads something beautiful, like, oh, that touches my heart. Oh, that makes a lot of sense. I feel it in my spirit. It's because you're remembering something that you've always already known. It's like a gentle awakening out of your slumber, out of our slumber, from this world that we live in, from the culture, from the schooling, from the religious institutions, from the media, from our parents. All these things that keep propping up the ego, the sense of separateness and division. That's what's been creating suffering, and that's what creates fear-based ideologies, fear-based behaviors. And so love is the answer. It always has been the answer. We have to create our own happiness. We have to create our own peace. We have to create our own bliss. That's the power that we have, and we've always had it when we were born, when we were kids. When we were kids, we had no sense of wrong or right. We just were being. We just were fearlessly being ourselves, and we had no shame. And we have that pure innocence of just being alive. But as we grow older, we go on this ego trip, and then we have that battle in our minds between good and bad, good and bad, good and bad. And that's just creating a vicious cycle. And then people go to church, people try to find meaning, people question why we're suffering, people ask God to save themselves. They are waiting for Christ to come back. All these different excuses that people provide just to avoid facing themselves, just to avoid facing their own shortcomings, facing their own emotional trauma, facing their own behaviors. That's all it is. It's all a diversion from self-love, from self-awareness, from being empowered and knowing what your truth is, knowing what your purpose is. And so back then, the Buddha, Muhammad, Jesus, whoever, even today, anybody that's teaching love and teaching how to embody this graceful state, to embody this uplifting, empowering, just kind of way of life and way of being. Anybody that teaches that, and the messenger of this way of being, the one that preaches what they practice, they can only deliver that message to those who are actually ready to receive the message, to those who are a vibrational and energetic match to the message. And so, not everyone is ready to face themselves and to increase that dose of self-love and to increase that dose of self-awareness. Not everyone is ready for that, and that's okay. We're all living at different levels of conscious awareness. We're all experiencing different situations and things and lessons in life. And so that's fine. But at the end of the day, we're all in this together, and we're all walking each other home. And home, to me, is the state of complete bliss, the state of complete, knowing. of just where everything is at ease, where our mind is at ease. Our mind is not tearing us apart and battling between this and that and this and that and this duality. It's the totality of everything. That's what I believe, what we should, not what we should, but what we should. I don't like using the word should. That's what I believe what love is and what God is and what consciousness is and what the universe is and what source energy. It doesn't matter what you name it. It's all the same at the end. It's all energy. And so back on yesterday, people that are seeking meaning and purpose through the Bible and through Jesus Christ, that's totally fine and dandy, except you can't take things so literally. You can't, people were asking, what happens when I go to heaven? Or what does heaven look like? Or, when is Jesus coming back? They're taking the Bible so literally. And I haven't even read the Bible, but I think I get the clue that it's not a literal thing to take. It's more of an allegorical and metaphorical. And it has to do with a way of life. It has to do with internalizing and realizing that you are the second coming of Jesus Christ. You are the one you've been waiting for to save yourself. You are the one that will lift you out of the suffering. You are the one that will take care of your health and treat your body like a temple, just like the Bible says. It's all on you. It's not on someone else. People wonder why there's so much suffering in the world. People wonder why there's so much violence. People wonder why there's so much trauma and anger and stress and just all these negative states. And they think that it's their fault or that person's fault or this religion's fault. No, it's no one's fault except our own. The world that we experience around us is a reflection of what's going on inside. And so, yes, we can't control what other people experience. We can't control what they believe. We can't control what their actions are. But we can totally control what we are. We can totally control how we show up and how we give meaning to life. We could totally control what our purpose is. We could totally control how we respond to places and situations and things and people and words and whatever. It's all in our control. And that's the difference between knowing and not knowing. That's the difference between a spiritual being to a religious being. Religion externalizes it. It puts the responsibility on someone else, something else that we don't even know what it is. And so it disempowers you. It takes away your own innate, divine, sacred power of being alive. This is a funny thing to think about. Just imagine how you came into this world, before you were even born, before you were even conceived from a sperm and an egg. Before that, what was there? Where did you come from? Now, take that same idea and apply it to, let's say you go to bed tonight and you go to sleep and then you never wake up. What happens when you go to sleep and you never wake up? Can you think about it? Can you conceive it? Can you actually be conscious of an unconscious state? Can you be conscious of being unconscious? No. So first off, there's no need to fear death, because when we go to sleep and we never wake up, that's like the time before we were born. We don't know. So what we do know is that we are alive right now. We are experiencing this mental trip, this imaginative world. We are experiencing that. Like I said, we breathe without knowing how to breathe. Our blood circulates without knowing how our blood circulates. It just happens. It's a deliberate, spontaneous happening, just like in nature. And so, actually, there's another quote here. I want to share this quote about if we can't even see God, if we can't realize that we're all the same and that we're all connected, if we can't even perceive God in an animal, in a tree, in whatever, if we can't do that, then we'll never realize what it really means. But hold on, I'm gonna find that quote because I think it's really important. And here it is. So it says here, if you're trying to maintain a relationship with God, but then at the same time, you can't even find God in the next person you meet, in the next tree you walk by, in the next breath of air that you take, or in the next moment you are left to your own presence. If if you can't even find God in those moments, then you cannot find God ever here and now. You have to keep looking, because you're looking in places outside of you. You're looking in places that don't exist. They're just in your figment of imagination. And so when you switch the script and you internalize it, that's when you know your power. That's when you know that you are part and parcel of this thing called God, this pervasive energy, this source, this universal consciousness that binds us all together. That's when we realize that, wow, look at this miracle of life. Let me experience this miracle of life every single day. Let me create my own happiness. Let me create my own joy. Let me create my own bliss. And let me realize that there are no enemies, that there is no other, that we're all experiencing the same exact thing, that we're all made of the same essence. We're all here to reflect to each other who we are, what we are. And at the end of the day, it's just a reflection of self. What you see in someone else is what you see in yourself. What you don't like in someone else is what you don't like in yourself. It's all reflection. It's all a mirror. And so another passage here, another quote here that I want to share is that stop searching for God, because you essentially are the essence of God. Stop searching for the creator, because you are both that. You are creating everything right now. You are it. I'm not saying that you have the same power as the power that grows a tree, as the power that creates babies. You don't have that same power, but you are the creation. And then you also have the ability to create your own experience. You are everything that you ever actually wanted and ever actually needed. You just have to step back, calm down, and reflect, and go within yourself and realize that the kingdom of heaven, as they say, is within ourselves. It's not out there. It's not when we die, we go to heaven or hell. No, it's an experience that we're having right here, right now. We create our own heaven. We create our own hell. Hell is the lack of love. Heaven is complete, infinite, pure, limitless, unconditional love. That's what heaven is. That's what we could create right here, right now, by just showing up for ourselves, by just being the best version of ourselves, by being kind, by being compassionate, by being giving, by being humble, by being honest, by being truthful, just being what feels good. Because when we live in fear, that doesn't feel good. So why do we continue to live in fear? We'd rather do something that feels good. So people keep creating this vicious cycle of suffering when the key to unlock their suffering is within themselves. It's through their own experience and through their own realization that, hey, I am a miracle. Hey, I do deserve happiness. Hey, I am here to embody my greatest self and not wait for someone to come save me and not wait for something to make me feel valuable. I am here to just be alive, and just that is enough to rise up and meet myself in that higher state of consciousness. And then, yeah, so let's see, any comments here? No, that's not a comment. That's just a thing. So yeah, I think that's what I wanted to share. I had another point, but it slipped away. Ultimately, we all are here for the same purpose, and that purpose is to create a purposeful life. If you want to serve the world with music, then you go serve the world with music. If you want to serve the world with yoga, then go serve the world with yoga. If you want to serve the world by being a public speaker, then go do that. If you want to serve the world by playing sports, then go do that. It doesn't matter. Life is an empty, blank canvas. We are the creators, and then we are the creations. We are the observer, and we are the observation. It's all one. It's all right here, right now. You are totally, empowered once you decide that, hey, you have the power. And I think that ego as Rumi, or is it Muji? Rumi or Muji, I don't know. One of these spiritual gurus, they say that ego is edging God out. And in this case, what is God? God is the essence of what you are. God is the higher self. It's the one that rises above the ego. The ego is not even real. The ego is just a figment of our imagination. The ego is just something that we create in order to feel like we matter, but by creating separation, by creating division. But really, the ego is not there. It's just smoke. It's just smoke and mirrors. And so when we take that step back and we realize that, okay, I'm not Jeremy. I'm not this body. I'm not this. I'm not this label. Whatever it is that I want to label myself. I'm not any of that. I'm the one that is experiencing everything. I'm the one that life flows through. And so when we take a step back and we kick the ego to the back seat, then the ego simply becomes a tool. It's our mind. Our mind is our ego. Our mind, our thinking mind, is a valuable tool. And it could be a blessing or it could be a curse. And when it's a curse, that's when we live in fear. That's when we live separated from others. That's when we think that, oh, we're victims. That's when we play the blame game. That's when we think that something's going to save us. That's ego, and that's just nonsense. It's just creating a vicious cycle of suffering. When we use ego to our advantage and we bridge our minds with our hearts and essentially create this experience, this spiritual experience. We're spiritual beings having a human experience. And so don't let yourself get in your way. Get out of the way, get your ego out of the way, put it in check, and then realize that you are beyond that. You are anything that you would want to be, and it's up to you to create it right now. And ultimately, that means love. We have to increase the dose of self-love in order to rise up to higher heights, in order to be better than who we were yesterday, in order to co-create a happier, healthier, more sustainable world that is not based in fear, that is not based in scarcity, that is not based in separation. And it's up to us. We are the ones we've been waiting for, and that's about it. That's always how it's been. Jesus back then, same thing. I'm not saying I'm Jesus, but what I am saying that you have to listen to the message that Jesus might have been sharing with the people back then, is that Jesus and Buddha and Muhammad, these are all people that, whether they were real or not, I don't know, but the message is still there. You have to master yourself. You have to take responsibility for your own life. You have to be completely in tune with your purpose, with your inner being, and not wait for something outside of you to come sweep you up and save you and take you to a better life. It's all on you, And so that's where I want to end with, is self-love is the gateway to happiness, to peace, to bliss. And as soon as you decide to go inside and to go within yourself and to internalize your truth, that's when you will really experience what it means to be a spiritual being and what it means to be connected to that higher source of self, God, consciousness, universe, source energy, whatever you want to call it. It's all right here, right now, waiting for you. What you seek is always seeking you. And if you keep seeking outside of yourself, then you're like a dog chasing its own tail. Namaste.
If you enjoyed this video, please like, comment, and/or share. And until next time, my friends.